Hello all and welcome back to M.Cliffordswittsendproductions. My name is Mark Clifford and I am the host of this channel, and I hope that the video you're watching today, that you'll find it to be helpful, informational, and perhaps even entertaining. If you do find it to be helpful, informational, and entertaining, please hit the like button, the share button, and the subscribe button. I'd love to have you part of my community on this journey about homelessness. So with that, this is going to be part 2 of my spiral into homelessness. There's going to be a part 3 and part 4 also, but this is part 2, and this is about South Seattle, Bellingham, and the east side. So in this video, this is where things really started to get out of control for me. Things were going downhill quickly. So with that, let's pick up where we left off last time. So where we left off last time was that I had moved from Bellingham and the Smith Road house to Auburn. Auburn is a small town in south of Seattle in Washington. And I was in my friend Mike's small upstairs loft home. And when I was living in Auburn, I was on the bus, and it was a good 15-minute walk one way to the bus. And that wasn't too bad, 15 minutes one way and the other. But when we moved into his large home in Kent, his estranged wife had moved into a different living situation, and they didn't want to sell the home, so Mike got to keep the home. I moved with him into the larger home. Where it was located in Kent, it was 45 minutes one way to the bus. There was no good bus service to this house, and it was getting to be winter, so it was freezing rain and snow and ice, high winds, just nasty cold, really terrible, and again 45 minutes one way to the bus, so we're talking an hour and a half commute by foot to the bus. After a few short months of this, I had been going to a church in a small town called Burien, Washington, which is next to the town I grew up in. I grew up in Des Moines, Washington, and I had been going to a church that was similar to Unitarian or Christian Science. It was the type of church was called Science of Mind. And so I had gone to this Science of Mind church, and with work drying up and things not working as I had hoped, I had been employing and applying mental and spiritual manifestation techniques. You may have heard of The Secret or Abraham Hicks, or Think and Grow Rich kind of touches on this a little bit. I was employing these things to no avail. I was not having any success, and with the lack of money coming in, my new roommate, was getting quite angry and distraught with me. And so I found myself, because of his being angry and our arguments, if you will, I found myself not going home for days. I was living under large trees in local parks and on a church property. I was sleeping on bus benches and whatnot, and it was terrible. So I had never had it this bad. I had never been this destitute before. I was staying up for days and hiding out from my roommate. I had very little sleep, maybe a couple hours sleep in any 3 or 4 day stretch. It was really bad. I would go to a Safeway grocery store that was close by, and I would stay there as many hours as I could until they kicked me out. So I finally got some help from a church that had homeless community meals twice a week, and I guess it was God's grace or providence or whatnot that I got into a house with a agency that they had called Sunlight or Sunrise Transitional Housing. So it did get me off the streets, but it was very religious. And it was a religious nightmare in the making, is what it was. And I'll dedicate portions of other videos coming up here in the future to this. I'm going to be doing videos specifically about each of the places I've stayed and had experiences in, as far as missions and shelters and transitional housing and whatnot. With Sunlight, I'm just going to call them Sunlight from here on out. I moved to one of their houses in White Center, Washington, which is the next town over from Burien. And in October of that year, I got kicked out of their house, and good riddance. They were a nightmare to have to deal with. And again, I'll go into details why later in another video. But they housed based on fear, not respect. They had a high turnover rate, and it really sucked to have a roof over my head but be afraid of the people running the show. So in November of 2013, I went back to Bellingham, and of note, while I was in Burien, I had applied a second time for Social Security disability. I was turned down a second time, but as it goes in applying for Social Security or disability, you have to do this 2 or 3 times before you get a final yes. So that'll be of note on the next couple of videos. So on the 5th of November, I was taken to the Lighthouse Mission in Bellingham, Washington, and I was there at the Lighthouse Mission for 19 months until my SSDI came in. That was where many good and bad parts of this whole homelessness endeavor happened. In multiple videos in the future, I'll talk more about the Lighthouse Mission. I've got a lot of experience there, and some really fun stories, some not so fun stories, and some very informational things to share with you on that. So again, a lot of good came out of it, a lot of bad came out of it. After my SSDI came in, which was June of 2015, I couch surfed a bit in Bellingham, and not any one place for any terribly long. It was a pretty short stay. And I had a friend, we'll call him FF. We joked that his rap name was Farm Fresh. So Farm Fresh, my friend FF from Omaha, had planted a seed in my mind about relocating to the Midwest. That'll be in part 3. I had never been to the Midwest, and it was something that kind of germinated, something I had ruminated on, thought about quite a bit. It was in the back of my mind. Part 3 is about the Midwest. So I decided to head south to Seattle once again, and on the day before I left Bellingham for Seattle, I ran into another good friend of mine, and we'll call him Big M. And he told me about a transitional housing program located on the east side of Seattle. The east side of Seattle is Bellevue, Kirkland, Redmond, where all of the executives of the big businesses in Seattle live, like Bill Gates' estate. We even stayed in Bill Gates' neighborhood with this program, and I'll tell you more about them in a moment. But all of the heads of Microsoft and Boeing and Starbucks and all those people, they live on the east side. So lots and lots of money there, and we'll talk more about that in the next video as well. But again, it was God's hand of providence, Big M telling me about this program. So he gave me the phone number and the name of the contact person in this program. So this whole housing program was, as I said, on the east side of Seattle. And the name of this program is called Congregations for the Homeless. And CFH, Congregations for the Homeless, is the one agency that I have raving reviews about. On a 5-star scale, they're a 4.5 out of 5. They are not perfect, but they were the best agency that I have had the pleasure to work with. And we'll be hearing more about CFH in the future. Big M, as I said, gave me the name and phone number of the contact person with CFH, and this, as I soon found out, would be a life-changing educational and multifaceted learning and growing experience. I went to Seattle and stayed for a very short while with a person that I thought was a friend of mine from the Science of Mind church that I mentioned. And she was, I believe, truly, not being facetious, I believe she had some mental health issues. Because she really got psycho on me. She really got crazy, and I had to flee. I had to get out of, I went for a visit, and I had to literally run away. So I called the contact person at CFH, and I got an invite to what I thought was a first look at the program dinner, and it actually turned into being an induction into Congregations for the Homeless, their mobile shelter, if you will. And I'll explain how their mobile shelter works. I wish there were more programs like CFH. It's on that note, it's unique. On the other hand, I wish there were a million of CFHs in different cities. Dallas could use a CFH. So I was in CFH from February to October of 2016. Trump was running for office, Seattle Seahawks looked strong and fizzled out, and what a year 2016 was. So as I mentioned, FF, my friend FF, Farm Fresh, had placed the Midwest on my mind, and that thought had ruminated and germinated, grown in my mind. So in October of 2016, I uprooted and moved to Omaha, Nebraska. What a rude awakening that was, indeed. So we'll talk more about the Big Red State in part 3. That's where we're going to leave off for now. I hope you found this video to be informative, helpful, and entertaining. If you have, please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Again, I'd love to have you along on this journey. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop me a line at www.Productions@gmail.com, or see the link in the description below the box. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.